Thank you very much again for joining us. Welcome everyone to the Excel Workshop Series number 2. My name is Carla Espinosa and I will be hosting this session on behalf of Hispanotech. I would like to thank you all for being here, and I'm sure that with this workshops, you will be on your way to become an Excel super user. Also, I would like to thank TRIAC for providing us with the means to present this workshop. Okay, so for the people that don't know what's Hispanotech, I would like to start this presentation by talking a little bit of it. Hispanotech is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to help Hispanic professionals integrate and advance their careers in Canada. And how do they do it? Through hosting skills development seminars, volunteering opportunities, mentoring programs, and so on. So please follow us in social media. And if you aren't a member yet and you think you can benefit from these programs, please go ahead and become a member. It's free. Let's move forward with Andres.
Hi everyone, and welcome to this second workshop. My name is Andres Tarazona, and I currently work on robotic process automation after more than 5 years of experience in different sectors. My experience is more involved with advanced formulas, also Excel macros. And for today, I'm going to be in charge of the presentation of advanced word formulas and Microsoft Excel Solver add-in. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, can you confirm if you can see my screen?
Yes, Andres.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the content for this first part of the workshop is now and today formulas. These are time formulas, and after that we are going to cover some sum functions, max and min functions, also count and average functions. These functions were covered during the first workshop, but today we are going to include also conditions to calculate these same functions. After that, we are going to cover the web service formula. This is a new formula that comes after the introduction of Excel 2016 version. And we are going to also include this combined VLOOKUP with a match or index formula to get values from different columns. And at the end of this first part, we are going to check the rep function to repeat text. As you can see, this was created using the formula. So let's go to the first part, the now function. Now function returns the current date and time. So as you can see, if I double click, this is the formula. So during this first part of the workshop, we are going to see the usage of the formula and also the value that return the formula. So for this one, it's returning the current data time and the current date also. And for this first function, we have a couple of exercise. The first of that one is to use this same formula here on this column that says current hour. So this first exercise covered the example where we have the login hour for one user. Let's take the same database that we used on the first workshop, and we want to know what is the actual working minutes that that worker have. So to get that difference, we are going to get the difference between the current hour and the login hour. So we can copy this formula using the Control-C, or you can type the formula here. Okay, 1 second. And we can enter the formula. All the Excel formulas requires an parentheses, and between the parentheses we are passing the arguments for the formula. But for this formula, we don't need parameters, and we just close the parentheses, and it's going to return the desired value. So now we want to also update this value for all the employees. So we can drag and drop the formula until the end. Or if you prefer, you can double click on this corner here, and that is going to drag and drop for you the formula until the last employee. So let's get the difference. To do that, we are going to enter the equal sign. We are going to select the current hour minus the login hour. So as you can see here, this is a decimal number. This is the actual difference of these two values, but it's not an easy way to read this. What is the representation of this value in hours, minutes, and seconds? To do that, we can go to the home on the ribbon section, select home, go to the number section to give a format to this cell, expand the dropdown and go to more number formats. So for this one, we can select this time section, and this is going to provide different formats. So for this one, we are going to provide the number of hours, minutes, and seconds that the worker has been working here. So this is the actual working in minutes. As you can see, the difference between the current hour and the login hour is 7 hours, 48 minutes, and 41 seconds. You can drag and drop, or you can double click to get the actual working minutes for all the employees. Do you have questions on this first formula? You can leave the questions on the chat. Okay, let's back to the second function that it's called today. Today, it's similar to the now function. As you can see, this is the usage. We don't need to pass parameters, and it's going to return the actual date. Today, it's 31st of March of 2021. And here I have the explanation for a second formula that we are going to cover after this first exercise. Let's take the first exercise. Let's calculate in the same way the days since the hiring day. This is similar to the formula that we apply for the now function. So let's enter here the formula. The current date is today, and we are closing the parentheses, and we are pressing enter. This is going to return the date here. We can drag and drop, or we can double click to paste the same formula on the other cells. So let's calculate the days since the hiring day. To do that, we are going to press the equal sign, select the current date, minus the hiring date. So for this first worker, it has been working since more than 1,000 days since the hiring date in 2016. So we can drag and drop to calculate the other values. This is similar to the first function that we cover. So these are the days without counting also the weekends. So what happened if we want to know how many working days has been working this work since the hiring day? To do that, we are going to use this formula that is called network days. We can pass these parameters. The start date, it can be the hiring date. The end date is the actual current date. And this optional, as you can see, it has square braces. This means that it's optional. If you want, you can provide that value. This parameter, it's to provide the holidays that your company or your country have for the calendar. So here is the usage. It's calculating, this formula is calculating the working days between the 1st of January of 2021 and the 31 of January of 2021. If we expand the calendar here, we can see that January has 1 day on Friday, and 4 whole weeks of 5 days each. So that's covered 21 days. So let's build one example with holidays. So let's take the 1st of January. It was holiday. Another example, it can be the 15th of January was also a holiday. So here we have the 2 holidays, and we are going to modify this formula. As you can see, we already have the start date, we have the end date, and now we are going to provide the holidays that we have here. And we just need to select the formulas. You just need to click and hold the click and select the range of the dates. And after that, we can enter. And now it's recalculated to 19 days. So this is the difference between these 2 days, the working days, excluding the 1st and the 15th that it's here, that it was also a Friday. So those 2 days were working days, and that is why it's showing only 19 days. So do you have some questions on this formula? If no, we can proceed with the exercise that it's calculate how many working days the worker has been worked since the hiring day.
There is a question, like, does it take the local country holidays?
To do that, there is another formula, but it's out of the scope of this workshop. But of course, I can send you after this workshop the usage of that formula.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, so let's calculate the hiring days, the weekdays since the hiring date. So we are going to use this formula, net work days. To do this, we net first the start date that is here, comma, or some computers have the colon, the other separate sign. And after that, we need to provide also the end date. In this case, is the current date. And for this example, we are not consider holidays, so we are only going to provide these 2 parameters. So as you can see, the whole days since the hiring date has been 1911 days. And for this one, it's 1223 days. It's less than this one, this is obvious. And we can drag and drop or double click to calculate the weekdays since the hiring date for the other workers. Is there more questions on this topic? Okay. No, you're good.
But
okay.
Sorry, Andres. Vanessa says, could you please show the formula?
Okay.
Oh, no. The including. Sorry, Vanessa. That will be. We're having that formula later on because it's not part of the scope. Andres will just mention it. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Let's go back to the other part. The sum if. This formula returns the sum of a range based on criteria that we can provide for the sum range. So for this formula we use in this way, we are providing the sum range, we are providing the criteria range, the criteria that we want to cover, and so on. So we can have here more than one criteria to sum a range. So let's go to the practice. That way we can see what is the usage of this formula. So as you can see, the sum range is the first parameter, and it's going from the row 18 to the row 47. Also, the criteria range starts on the same row and the same and ends on the same row that the sum range. So for this first exercise, we are going to sum all the salaries that we have here on the salary year for people with age of 40 or older. So on this example, we have the sum for people with age of 20 or older. So let's do the sum here. To do that, we are going to use the formula sum if as the first criteria is the sum range. So this is going to be the salary per year. After the comma. And then we are going to provide the criteria range. This is going to be the age because we are calculating the age. So we have to select the range of age. As you can see, we have the same size of range. It's starting on the same row and ending on the same row. And the third parameter that we are going to provide is the criteria. So to calculate numbers, we just need to open two signed yeah.
Quotes.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry for that. Greater than, and here we are also include the age of 40. So we also need to provide the equal, and here we have the number that we want to calculate is 40. We close with the same sign, and we close with a parenthesis. After this, we are entering. And here we have the sum of these people with more than 40 years, more or equal than 40 years. So on the second exercise, we are going to add more than one criteria. For this, we are going to sum also the salaries with people with Australian citizenship and with age between 20 and 40. So to do this between, here we have an example. Here we are adding the condition for people with more than 20 and less than 25. So we are going to do something similar for this range. And also we are including the citizenship restriction. So to do that, we are going to use the same formula. We are going to select the range that we want to sum, comma, select the criteria. The first restriction is the citizenship. This is going to select, we are going to select this column. The criteria is Australian, so the Australia country it's here. So this is going to be a text. It's going to be between this host. Australia. We close. So after that, it's here it's highlighting the second criteria. So the second criteria is the age. So for that, we are going to select the age column, comma, host. And we are applying this. Greater than or equal than 40. We close. And to do that, the second restriction, we have to select again the same range. And apply the second restriction that is less than 40. So to do that, you're going to select this sign, minor than, equal 40, close the host, and close the parentheses because we already entered the three conditions that we have here, the citizenship and the age between, and we click, we enter. And here we have the sum of all the salaries with Australian citizenship with age between 20 and 40. And do you have questions so far?
Yes, Andres, we have one question. Marcela is asking if we can use a second condition on this, for example, or instead of and, if we can use it in the formula.
Okay, to do that instead of and, we need to use different ranges. We are repeating, as you can see, to this condition, it has two conditions, the age. So we are repeating the same range, the column D and also the column D. And here we have the two conditions.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's do the third practice. To do this, we are going to calculate between dates. So we are going to sum all the salaries between of people hired between the January 6th of 2013 and May 5 of 2014. So let's enter these two dates on these cells. And the end date is this one. Let's correct this value. It's 2013. Okay, so let's apply this ampersand condition. As you can see on this example, the start date is added to the signs that we already used before to concatenate also this value that we have in this cell. So we are going to apply the same condition here. The first parameter that we have on this sum if else condition is the sum range. So let's select the salaries. Okay, and the condition is between two dates. So these two dates, the hiring date is on the first column. So let's select the first column, is the criteria range. And here we have to apply, it's greater than this date and greater on equal or equal than this date or minor or equal than this date. So to do that, we are going to apply this greater or equal than. So we want the value that it's inside this cell, the column, the cell B71. So to do that, we are going to concatenate that using the ampersand sign and selecting the cell, or you can type the cell value. Okay, and the second condition, it should be less or equal than this date. So to do that, we need to select the hiring date column again and apply the second condition that we have on that column. That condition is less or equal than this end date. And we complete all the required conditions. So we close with a parenthesis. And here is the sum of all the salaries of people that was hired between these 2 days. We can update the dates, like let's add 1 year. And this is going to update the formula. Okay, do you have questions on this? Okay, let's go back to the content. Now we are going to cover this sum product formula. This formula is doing something similar that to the cover during the previous formula, because we can also add conditions, but this is providing something additional. It returns the multiplication, addition, subtraction, or division between 2 ranges. Let's take an example that we are going to multiply this value, the salary per day, for the day since the hiring date. So to do that, we need to do manually this multiplication. If that formula does not exist, we need to calculate this, and we have to send a sum then after that all the calculations that we have here. But there is another way to do that with a single formula, that is the sum product. So let's cover the first example. Let's see this example that we have here. Here we have the different products, the cost per unit, and the quantity that we want to buy. So to calculate how many, the result of that of this calculation, we need to calculate the cost per unit for the quantity and then sum all these results into a single formula. So to do that, we can apply this formula. So the first parameter is the range that contains the cost per unit. And the second parameter that we have here is the quantity. So this formula is going to multiply this value for this value that we have here, also this value for this value, and so on. And then it's going to sum all the calculations that we have here. This can be also calculated doing this manually, but what happens if we have more than one product here or more than 100 products? We can enter manually all the multiplications and the sums. So let's take one example here. Using the column salary per day and day since the hiring date, let's get the total amount earned for the employees. So let's do that first part. To do that, we are going to enter the formula sum product. Here it's saying that we need an array. An array is a collection of cells. That means that we need to select a range. This is an array of cells. That is the parameter that we need to pass. The second parameter that we are going to pass is how many days have the employees have been working. So this second array of cells have to match with this range that we have here. So this formula is going to multiply this value for this value, and this value for this value, and so on. And at the end, it's going to sum all the results. So let's close so far this formula. And here we have the total of the salary per day for all the days that the employees have been working. Okay. Do you have questions so far? I know this formula is not easy to explain. Let me know if you have questions so far. No? Okay, let's continue. For this second part, to apply the deductions, we are going to use something called subtraction and multiplication. So let's take this example. We have a discount per product to it's the same example that we have here. But now we have addition to the cost per unit, we are applying also a discount of 10% for this product and 0% for this one, 15 and 20%. So for example, for the green tea, the cost per unit is $3.25. It has a 10% of discount. That means that it's 33 cents of discount. So the final price is the difference between these two prices. So here we have a subtraction. And then we are going to multiply this final price for the quantity that we have here. And this is going to return the total that we are going to pay for this single product. But what happens if we want to calculate the total for all the products? So we are doing something similar here. We have the sum product. We have here on the first range, C64 to C67 is this column, the normal price that we have here. Minus, we are going to calculate here the final price is the normal price that we have here minus the discount. So to calculate this discount, we are multiplying this cost per unit for the discount. So we are calculating here the cost per unit for the range that contains the discount, that is the column D. So doing that, we are going to get the final price per product, so multiplying the cost per unit minus the discount. And then we are multiplying this result for the quantity range that it's here, the column E. So let's go to apply to calculate. Okay, 1 second. Sorry for that. Let's calculate the discount for all the salaries, calculating the these two columns, the result of these two columns, the salary and the days since the hiring date, applying the discount percentage that is on this column, the deductions columns. So to do that, we are going to use the same formula that we saw before, sum product. It's similar to that we have here. So the first that we are going to do is to open a parenthesis. This parenthesis is a delimiter for calculations. So here we have a subtraction. So that subtraction is between parentheses. And here we have a multiplication and it's also between parentheses. So let's encapsulate that calculation. So here, the first array that we are going to select is the salary, that it's similar to the cost per unit. Salary per date. Okay, to that, I need to subtract the discount, the deductions. So the deductions are the same salary multiplied by the deductions. So to do that, we are going to open a second parenthesis, similar to the one that we have here. And we are going to select the salary. And then we apply the multiplication. So we are going to enter the start sign that we have here and select the deductions. Oh, sorry for that. Selecting this part first. For the tree. And multiply this range for the deductions. And we are closing this part. So far what we have, the salary minus the salary per the discount. So this is the first subtraction that we are going to do. So the salary minus subtracting the deductions, it's the total income that the employee is going to receive. So let's multiply that income for the days that the employee have been working. So as you can see here, I forgot to close the first parenthesis. So here we have the first parenthesis, it's encapsulating the subtraction, and this is already closed, that is the multiplication. So let's multiply this part for the days since the hiring day. And then we can close the formula. And here, applying the deductions, it's going to be less than the first calculation that we did. So this is how we can calculate that in a single formula. I know that some of you are using additional columns to calculate deductions, also subtracting that values and then multiplying the days that the worker has been working. But we can calculate that in a single formula if we get familiarized with this formula. It's called sum product. Okay, do we have questions on this formula? Okay, no. Okay, let's back to the menu. And let's calculate max and min functions. So taking first the max function, this was already covered during the first workshop. This formula is returning the maximum value in value inside a range. So for this formula, we are getting the maximum value that we have inside this range. This is 45,238. That is the result. Okay, no, sorry for that. Maximum value is 73,029. It's calculated here. It's for James Robert. So what happens if we have criteria like we want to filter by a country? So to do that, we can use this max if s. This formula, it's going to give us the result based on criteria. It's similar to the sum if s. So the usage is like this. We provide the range, the max range, the criteria range, and also the criteria that we want to meet. So as you can see, this is the column E that contains the salary. We want to know what is the maximum salary of people with citizenship that is Qatar. So for that formula, we are going to have 3 matches here on this column, but only this one is the maximum value. So let's take some examples here. We want to get the greatest salary earned by a person with age of 35 or younger. So this is similar to the sum if s. So let's going to enter max if s. The first part, first criteria that we want to enter, it's the maximum range. So we want the maximum salary. The second range that we are going to provide is the criteria range. This is the age. And then we are going to enter the criteria that we want to meet. This is the date that we want, 35 or younger. So to do that, it's minor equal, then 35, close the host, and we close the parentheses. For this one, we only have one condition, and this is the maximum range. So if we enter here, we have, this is the maximum salary earned. Okay, earned. Here we have. Enter. Or younger, less than. Okay. We have another 70. Okay, it's here. This person have 21 years, and it has a salary of 70,973. So the second exercise is to apply more than 2 conditions. So we can apply up to 126 conditions to this formula. Also to the sum if s and to the main if s, we can apply the same amount of conditions. So this is similar to the other formula that we used. Max if s. The first criteria is the salary. It's the one that we want to know. The second range that we are going to provide is the criteria range. So it's the same age condition. So we are going to select the range of age, comma, and we are going to provide the condition. Minor equal than 35. The second condition is the Australian citizenship. So to do that, we have to select the citizenship column, comma, and the name of the country. Then we close the parentheses and click on enter. And this is the maximum salary earned by by a person with 35 or less than that age with an Australian citizenship. So if you have questions on this formula, you can do it now on the chat.
Andres, we have 5 more minutes, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So the count formula, it's similar to the other ones that we have here. For this one, it's going to return the formulas that contains numbers. So this formula, it's going to count only cells that contains numbers. So as you can see, this 30, it's this salary per year. Here we only have numbers. It's why this is returning 30. But what happened if we have a letter here? It's going to return 39. Okay. The other formula that we can use to count cells is the count A. This is going to calculate all the formulas, all the cells that are not empty. So for the count A, we are going to calculate this range here, the area code. As you can see here, we have an error, but here we have 30 records, and the result of this formula is 30. So this formula, it's calculating formulas that are not empty. So if we delete one value here, it's going to become 29. For the count if formula, we are going to get the count of formulas of cells that contains certain criteria. In this case, we are calculating how many cells contains this value gamma. So we have 3 employees that match that criteria. We also have multiple criteria. In this case, we are going to use the count if s, and we can apply more than one. So here it's applying the same, another condition, the same condition over the citizenship and the age restriction or more than 40 years. So for this, it's going to return 2 people. It have the citizenship of Qatar and have more than 40 years. Since we have only 5 minutes, I'm going to explain the other functions, and you can practice with the examples that are here on this section. Okay, the next formula that we have is the average. The average returns the arithmetic mean of a range of values. So as you can see, this is the average salary for all the employees, but we can also calculate the average salary based on conditions. So if I want to know the average salary for people of Ghana, this is the condition that we have to apply. First, we select the range in the criteria range, the criteria that we want to meet, and then we provide the column that we want to get the average. If you have more than one condition, you can also use the if condition, if s, and we can provide also more than one condition to do that. For this formula, we are calculating the average salary for people of Qatar with more than 40. The next formula, it's called web service. This formula is used to get data from internet through an API. So the API is something widely used right now to communicate data between programs. So for this example, I bring this web service. It's called Track Corona. It's used to provide data from of COVID data. It's providing this response. It's giving the country, the location of that country, confirmed cases, the deaths, and the recovered cases, and also the last date time. It was those values were updated. So to do that, I have this example. We just need to use the formula that is called web service. We are going to use this URL that we have here. So let's use the web service. Here, the country code, as you can see here, is bold. We need to replace this with the country code of each country. The API usually use parameters to indicate what value do I need from the API. So to do that, we are going to concatenate the value that we have here on the country code. And we are going to close this formula. So as you can see here, for these countries, there are no data report. But if we copy this formula here, it's saying that this is San Marino country, and those are the data that we have right now. And this is the last update. It was updated today. And these are the confirmed cases, the dead cases, and the recovered cases. Okay, and we can drag and drop and update the dates, update the other cells, and get the statistics for other services. We can use APIs that you want. You can have at your company custom APIs, or you can get currency converters to convert currencies between countries and other services that you can find online.
There is one more question about the web service.
What if you need a web service to log in first?
That's right. That one.
Yes, that's the one. This web service needs to have an inline login. If it's under like 2 steps login, the one that you need to enter the credentials on the website is not allowed. You need to provide the secret key inside the URL that you are entering on Excel. So this web service does not support OAuth 2.0.
Okay, thank you, Andres. So time's up. Now, so let's continue with our workshop and our next.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thanks for being here and welcome to this second part, third part of this workshop. It's of Solver. Solver is an add-in. It is not activated when you install Excel, so you need to activate that. But first, let's see what is the content of this part of the workshop. We are going to see what is Solver, what kind of problems we can solve using Solver, how to enable this add-in. As I mentioned, it's not installed by default. And here we are going to cover 4 exercises to apply this add-in. So what is Solver? Solver is a Microsoft Excel add-in program, and you can use for what-if analysis. We can find the maximum or a minimum value for a formula in one cell. So let's in this workshop, we are going to see something called target value. And that is the formula that we want to optimize using finding the maximum or minimum value. What kind of problems we can solve using Solver? Logistic problems, procurement, human resources, and other kind of programs that can be solved with linear and non-linear exercise. So first step that we are going to do is how to enable Solver on Excel. So if we navigate into Data tab, we don't have Solver here at the beginning. So the first thing that we are going to do is click on File, then click on Options, go to Add-ins. Here we have a drop-down list. We select Excel Add-ins and click on Go. And then we are going to select Solver Add-in, click on OK, and this is going to show us Solver enabled on our computer. On the other side, we have the step-by-step to Mac computers. It's also available for Mac. So let's enable that. On Options, Add-ins. Solver, click on OK. And now we have this function enabled here. It's called Solver. Okay, so here it's one recommended links. I'm going to explain why I add this recommended link here. So let's start with the first 2 exercises. It's maximize and minimize a target. So let's take this example. This example, it's a list of different products: brownies, ice cream, cola, cheesecake. or yummy products. Each of them has different values for calories, for the content of chocolate, the sugar that contains each product, and also the fat, and of course the cost of each one. So this row that we have here is the diet that we are following. So if I want one brownie, I'm going to select one, okay? So the cost of the diet that I'm going to follow, it's determined by the multiplication of these values for the values that we have here. So if you remember the formula sum product, we can select this array of cells and multiply that value for this array of cells. Click enter. So if I enter 1 here, we are going to have 0.5. That is the cost of the brownies. And also, if we have enter 1 for ice cream, we are going to have the cost of the ice cream. So let's start with zero values. So what is maximize, what is minimize, and with its value of. So maximize, it gets the maximum value that we can have on this cost. Minimum, it's the opposite, and value of, it's if I want to, if I have a budget, I can say like $30. How many brownies, ice cream, cola, and cheesecake can I buy with that? So to do that, I need to select solver. It's under the ribbon data and solver. So this is going to display this window. And here we can define the parameters. The set objective is the formula where we want to optimize. As I mentioned, it's the target value. In this case, our target is the cost, and the cost is determined by these values. And we have the sum product formula here. So this is going to be our set objective. So the first example that we are going to do is to maximize a volume. What is the maximum cost that I can have by modifying these values? As you can see here, we have the changing variable cells. So Excel is going to change these values for us, and it's going to give us the maximum value that we can have here by changing these values. So let's select this range and click on solve. Okay, it's running now. Okay, and here we have an alert. The objective cell values do not converge. So this means that Excel is changing all these values and it's never finding a solution. Why? Because if I add more numbers here, I'm going to increase the cost. So if I don't have restrictions for my cost, so I can buy the brownies and ice cream and cola and cheesecake that I want. So this is following the same behavior. If I don't have restrictions on my budget, I can buy whatever I want. So Excel, it's going to be this. It's going to do the same. So let's return to the previous window. We are going to restore the previous values and click here to return to the previous window. Okay, now we have zeros here. And let's to minimize, I want to know what is the minimum cost that I have if I change these values. So click on solve, and it's going to say solver found a solution. It's do not buy anything, and that is going to give you the minimum cost. Okay, so this covers the two first objectives that we have here, the minimum and maximum. And what happened if I have a value of the example that I gave you at the beginning? It was if I have $30. So let's solve this. And this is going to give us that I can have 14 brownies, 5 ice cream, 8 colas, and 23 cheesecakes. And that is going to give me a budget of $30. So in this way, we can calculate the the amounts of different products that I can buy with a given budget. Okay, but this is not a real example. In life, we have restrictions. Like I can buy, okay, let's solve it. I can buy 14.7 brownies. So this is something that I need to add as a restriction, because you can go on to a bakery and say and ask for 0.7 brownies. So that it's one of the called restrictions. So for the restrictions, we are going to cover that on the exercise number 3. To do that, we are going to use the same values that the same data that we use on the solver 1 and 2. We are going to have the same cost calculation. And let's add the restriction that I can buy decimals, like 0.7 brownies. So to do that, I'm going to select this cost cell is the objective. I'm going to get a value of $30, and the values that are going to change are these ones. Okay. So one of the restrictions that we are going to add is all these values needs to be integer. Okay, so I can add that restriction, and let's click on solve. And this it's more real. So I can buy 12 brownies, 3 ice cream, 6 colas, and 27 cheesecakes, and get the exact amount of $30. So this is important when we are defining variables that does not allow decimal points. Okay, let's close this. And now we have this task. So we are going to add more restrictions. So we are going to find a minimum cost diet that contains the following restrictions: at least 500 calories, at least 6 grams of chocolate, at least 10 grams of sugar, and 8 grams of fat. So let's define that on an additional column, like restriction. Okay, for the calories, we have 500. For the chocolate, we have 6. For the sugar, we have 10. And for the fat, we have 8 grams. Okay, let's provide some format here. Okay, this is our restriction. So against what we are going to compare this? Against the sum of these values. So to do that, we can go to home, and here on auto sum, click, and this is going to insert this formula that is called sum, and this is going to sum these values. But these values depends of the selection that I have here. So to do that, we are going to use the sum product, and it's the multiplication of these ones for the products that I have on the diet. So far I have 0. If I ate a brownie, I add 400 calories to my budget. Okay, let's do the same for the other ones. Some product. Let's multiply this part for the diet that I have here. This part here, the diet. Some product, this part for this one. Okay, let's add these restrictions to solver. So to do that, we navigate back to data, solver. We already have the restriction, the objective cell. The target cell is here. The range that is going to change is going to be this one. we already have the restriction of integers values for those ones. So we have these additional restrictions. So to add a new restriction, we click on Add. Cell reference is this one. And it says at least, so it should be greater or equal than this value. Okay, click on Add, and let's add the second value. This one should be greater or equal than 6. You can add, and this one let's do the same for the last one. Is the fat should be greater or equal than 8. Okay, click on Add, click on OK. And if we go back here, we already have the restrictions. Okay, so let's solve this. For this one, we are going to get the minimum cost diet that contains these restrictions. So let's select minimum and click on solve. Okay, this is the solution. It says that you have to buy 3 ice cream and 1 cola, and that is going to give you 750 calories, 6 grams of chocolate, 10 grams of sugar, and 13 grams of fat. So that's enough to cover these restrictions that we have here, and it's only going to cost you 90 cents of dollar. Okay, do you have questions on so far? Okay, let's continue the next exercise. So let's go to the solver number 4. For this exercise is an logistic exercise. We are going to have a company that wants to minimize the cost shipping for a product from 2 different factories to 5 different customers. So here we have 2 factories. Here we have the customers. Also here we have the same a range of a factory customer. So each factory has a limited supply and each customer have a certain demand. The demand of the customers is here, and the restriction of the capacity of the factories is here. Okay, so we need to calculate the minimum cost of shipping that contains these restrictions. The total received, this one that we have here, should be greater or equal than the demand. The demand is here. And the total ship should be less than the capacity of each factory. So, and also we have to have at least 500 units delivered to each customer to justify the cost of shipping. So I can send only one from the factory 1, and here 29,999 to cover this 30,000. So to do that, we need to have at least 500 to justify that we are going to send this shipment to the customer 1. That is one of the conditions. So let's calculate the total per customer shipped by each factory. So to do that, let's go home, click on out sum. You can see it's sum, and we can drag and drop this formula, and this is going to calculate the sum for each customer. So how are we going to calculate the cost of shipping? As you can see, we have the amount of products that we are going to send to the customer 1 from the factory 1. It costs 1.75 per unit. So if I send 1 unit from here, it's going to cost me 1.75. So how to calculate the total of from each factory to each customer? To do that, we are going to apply the same formula, sum product, And we are going to multiply this part from here, the shipment, for each cost. We close here. We already have one here. It costs 175. And if we send from the factory 2 to the customer 5 one product, it's going to cost me this part. It's going to cost me $1. Okay, so this is good so far. So let's add these restrictions to Solver, and let's calculate how what is the amount of if shipment that we are going to send. To do that, we need to go to Data, go to Solver. Let's reset all the values that we have here. Our set objective, the objective cell is this one, the total cost of shipping. Select this one. And by changing the variable cells, the cells that are going to change is how many units I'm going to send to each customer. So these are the cells that are going to change. And now we are going to add the restrictions. So one of the restrictions that we see on the Excel, the Solver exercise 3, it's we can send decimals. So one of the restrictions that we have here, it's all of these ones needs to be an integer value.
Sorry, Andres, 5 more minutes, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
So all of them needs to be integer values, and let's add the restrictions. So one of the restrictions that we have is the capacity. Okay. Oh, sorry, I forget to sum these values to calculate also the capacity. So this is the total produced per factory 1 and should be less than the capacity. And also the total of the factory 2 should be less than the capacity that as we can have here on the this restriction. So let's go back to Solver. So let's add the first restriction. The total received demand should be less than the demand. So to add that restrictions, we can select also a range. So I can select this range. It should be greater or equal than the demand that we have here. We add the restriction. And the other restriction that we have here is the total ship should be less than the capacity. So this produced per each factory should be less than 60,000. So to do that, we can also select these two cells and should be less or equal than these values here. And the last restriction is this 500 units as a minimum shipment. So for this one, we are going to select these cells. It should be greater or equal than 5,000. You can enter also the values here. Click on OK, and we have all the restrictions here. And we want to find the minimum cost. So to do that, we are going to select minimum cost and click on Solve. Okay, click on Continuous. Okay, let's stop this first. I have one condition here, and on options, I have show iteration results. Sorry for that. Let's try to solve this again. Click on OK. And this is the restriction. It's the solution that Solver is providing us. So it says that for this customer, we are going to send 25,000 from the factory 1 and 500,000 from the factory 2. And that is going to cover the demand. And it's going to represent the less amount of shipping, of cost of shipping for that one. As you can see, all the values are greater than 500. All the demands are covered by the solution. And also the capacity is covered. This one, it's a maximum capacity. These have a room of 4,000. So this is one of the ways that a Solver can be used. as you can see, this can be easy to solve by changing just one value and try and error. So it's a better way to approach this kind of problems. It can be used also to identify other restrictions, like to solve problems on your human resources. Like some people, the ones that you want to select should live on this area and should have expected salary of this range. So all of them are restrictions that you can add to your model, and you can solve that. Okay, about this recommended link, it's going to show you the 3 different ways to solve a problem. On this part, you have 3 different ways to solve a problem. So the first one is the GRG nonlinear. If the calculation, as you can see, we're step by step on this condition. So we'll start with 0. That was the initial values that we have. And Excel start to add some values, some random values that met the conditions. So if at some point those random values that Excel is giving to the solution start to increase the cost, it's going to stop the bot. So it's going to stop the solution. So that it's called local minima. But as you can see, there is another solution that you have here, but it's not going to be found using this kind of solving method. So what happens if I want to be sure that we are getting the global minima? So to do that, we are going to use the simplex LP. The only cons that have this solution, it's slow and it's going to take more time to solve your model, but it's going to give you the minimum cost, and you are going to be sure that it's not going to be like this. Okay, let me know if you have additional questions on this. I'm happy to help you.
It's time and test. I don't know if any of you have any question that for Andres or for William in order to answer it.
Okay. So thank you, Andres. Again, very interesting topic and very powerful at solver adding. I didn't know about solver, so now I know about it. Thank you very much. All the time and effort you put into this workshop. Thank you very much for sharing your knowledge with Hispanotech's community. We really appreciate this. Also to our volunteers that are behind the scenes, helping with logistics, Lucero, Eugenio, Antonio, Diana. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining us, and have a good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.